flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome. We'll be holding this meeting in accordance with the Open Meetings Act. It's right over there, and one day I'm going to have somebody read that whole thing before we start the meeting, so prepare for that. So first of all, I'm sure everybody has went through the meeting minutes for the 24th and the 25th.
Yes.
Yeah, and if there's no objections, somebody boldly want to approve both of those at the same time?
I'll make that motion.
Burke? Was that a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Stroman.
Stroman,
Yes.
Galloway,
Yes.
Sherman,
Yes.
Radcliffe,
Yes.
Vonnegut,
Yes.
All right, motion approved, 5-0, approved minutes. Number 3, comments by the public. Anybody in the public want to step up and say anything? It's not on the agenda. So then we will move to number 4, audit presentation for the fiscal year 2021-22. Mr. Rauner and Associates.
All right, so my name is Trevor Schuessler. Jeff Young and Julie Keats here to answer questions if I'm not able to do so. But I guess first off, I just want to thank the board for giving us the opportunity to prepare the audit again this year. Also want to thank David, Lane, department heads, and the entire office staff for all their help in getting the audit completed. Overall, I'd say it went really smoothly. The accounting team was definitely well prepared, and everybody was always really responsive to any questions and requests we had. So that's always appreciated. So following approval of the audit tonight, we will, David will, I don't recall who submits it to the state, but it'll be submitted to the state prior to the March 31st deadline. As far as the audit report goes, within the audit, there's going to be 2 components that I just want to call out. The first one is going to be the independent auditor's report, and in that's going to show that we issued an unmodified opinion, meaning the financial statements were fairly presented. The second component, which is at the very end of the audit report, is a report on internal control over financial reporting and compliance. So then in addition to these 2 items, we also provided management with some constructive suggestions as part of the ongoing process of improving the city's procedures and operations. And all of that was communicated in a separate management letter that's just inserted loosely inside the audit report. So there's 2 things in there that I just want to touch on quickly. First one is that the sewer fund expenditures exceeded total revenues by about $36,000. That's actually a pretty big increase from last year and a couple of years ago. But the reason we're putting that in there is because I believe that's the 5th year that fund has shown the loss. The second point in that letter, when you read that, it's going to mention about the ability of the accounting staff's ability to prepare the financials and the notes to the financial statements. The main reason I want to call that out is that note's not in there to say that we don't think David and Lane and Lori and the whole staff is not doing a good job. Really, that's standard audit language that we have to put in there because they're requesting that we draft the financials and the notes. So some of the larger cities like Omaha and Lincoln, they do that all themselves. All over Nebraska, I think basically the rest of them, probably besides those really large cities, are asking the auditors to do that. So for independence purposes, we have to put that in there and communicate that we're drafting that. As part of that, any adjustments that we make to the financial statements, we go over those with David and Lane, and then Lane ultimately signs off and approves those too. So again, that's really in there for independence purposes, not saying we don't think they do a good job. So I guess the last thing that I'll mention on that management letter is that if you compare it to last year, there was 2 compliance issues last year. One was that the funds at, I believe it was Security First, were not properly collateralized as of year end. And then the second one was that the debt service fund exceeded its budget due to a bond refunding. So there was no budget compliance issues, and there was no collateral issues. So both of those have since been resolved, which is a positive. You guys have any questions on that so far? So, Lane, do you have control of the slides?
Yeah, I have it.
Okay. Do you want to go to the first slide or second slide, I guess? First slide, sorry. So that's going to be tough to see. I don't know if you have an electronic version or a hard copy in front of you, but this is just taken directly from the audit report, and that's Exhibit A. And what this is going to show is just the government-wide statement of net position. So this statement is broken up between governmental activities and then business-type activities. And when we say business-type activities, we're talking about the electric, water, sewer, and landfill funds. So, basic government activities, and then kind of the ones that are out there trying to earn a profit or charging for services. So, I know you can't see it there, but as far as on the right thing, the main thing that we want to point out on this financial statement here is that total assets in governmental activities increased by about $1 million or 1.73%, and total liabilities decreased by 1.4 or 6.65%. And then on the business type activities side of things, total assets increased by 1.2, and total liabilities decreased by a little over 1 or almost 1.1 million. So as far as this, I guess the main takeaway, and it's definitely going to be kind of a recurring theme throughout this presentation, is that overall everything is definitely trending in the right direction. So, Lane, you want to go to the next slide, please? Okay. So this is a statement of activities. And again, so this is looking at the same way. It's broken out between governmental activities and business type activities. And it's basically the equivalent of the city's income statement. So as you can see in that bottom left corner, again, a couple of positives. Revenues increased by about $800,000 or 7% in governmental activities, and expenses decreased by about 1%. On business type activities, revenues increased by $230,000 and expenses increased by about $659,000. So as far as the primary reasons for the increase in some of these funds is, as far as governmental activities go, the main driver of the increase there in revenues is an increase in capital grants and contributions. So one of the items that you'll see in there, you can kind of see it there, $704,000. That's going to be the donation of the Sydney Park project. So we do show that as a receipt in government-wide financials, even though it was a non-cash transaction. And then as far as the business activities goes, revenues in each of the 4 business type activities, so electric, water, sewer, and landfill, revenues were up in each of those 4 funds. Of the 4, landfill definitely showed the most significant increase from the prior year, and we have another slide later on that shows that. But I guess the other thing that I'll comment that kind of stands out on this is, given the increase in costs of basically everything over the last year, I think it was kind of surprising and also good to see that expenses were actually down this year. So then I think the last thing that I'll point out on this slide, and you can't really see it, but it's in the bottom right corner. And again, this is Exhibit B in the audit report. So based off the activity that took place, the overall net position of the city did increase by a little over $4.7 million, meaning the city's assets now exceed liabilities by approximately $86.9 million. Any questions on those 2 financials? Again, those are just the first 2 financials in the audit report. They're both government-wide, kind of high level. There's obviously a lot more detail as you work through the rest of the audit report. But any questions on any of those increases or changes from the prior year or anything so far? So on this next slide, and really these next few slides, all they're really going to show is just some historical trends. So I'll probably move through them pretty quickly, but if anything jumps out to you that you want to ask about or dive into a little bit, just definitely interrupt me. But as far as this first slide goes, this is going to show the excess or deficiency of revenues over expenditures in the governmental funds. So here we're really just showing general and street. You know, there are some other governmental activity funds that we're not including here, but general and street being the main two. So even though the excess of revenues over expenditures is still very significant, it did decrease slightly from the prior year. And I believe the decrease is primarily, at least in the street fund, that was really related to an increase in capital expenditures. So I think the largest of those was there was a $198,000 street sweeper that was bought in the last fiscal year. And then as far as the decrease in the general fund, that's really coming from a decrease in state and federal grants received. And I'll talk about it a little bit. So part of that is, you know, the ARPA money that we received. There was about, I think 51,000 of that we ended up adjusting for as being received into the water fund for well repair. And then there was 181,000 that was actually received into economic development for the north side water main project. That was actually done in the prior year, but the ARPA funds were allocated to it this year on the schedule of federal expenditures. I think that's all I really had on that slide. If you want to go to the next one. So this is just going to show, you know, of those revenues in the governmental activities, this is going to show the breakout of where that money is coming from. It's actually really consistent with last year. There was a slight increase in taxes. I think it went from 51-point-something% to just under 53%. I think the only thing I'll mention on this is right now, can't really see in the red chart there. Maybe I'll try to improve these next year. But both the grants and contributions, that's been pretty significant the last 2 years. I would definitely expect that to start dropping now that some of the COVID-related funding is starting to wind down, especially the ARPA money. Like I said, and so the city, as far as the ARPA money goes, the city has received both of its tranches of $541,000 in each of the last 2 years. And just as a side note, I'm assuming you guys are already aware, you know, of that 1.08 million in ARPA funds that the city's received, as of the end of fiscal year 2022, you guys have only spent about $265,000 of that. So I don't know, have you guys done any more expenditures after September 30th?
Well,
and because you have until, is it 2024 to use that?
I think you said to allocate. December 2024, you have to allocate it, say it's going to be spent on something. December 2026, it has to be allocated.
Okay. So yeah, you guys still have, you know, close to 800,000 to spend there, but obviously some time to do it. And then Lane gets to deal with submitting all of the backup to support all of that spending. So, Lane, I guess if you want to go to the next slide again, this is just looking at governmental activities and the breakout of where those expenditures are going. Again, no real big changes from last year, except the interest on long-term debt has decreased a few percentages, just as that debt starts to get paid down more. So, Lane, if you want to go to the next slide. So I guess moving on to business type activities, this is where you're going to see, you know, the operating income or loss of the proprietary fund. So the big thing, again, that we want to point out on this is, you know, sewer still did show that small loss, but it was a big improvement compared to the last 3 years. And then, like I said, as far as, you know, the most significant improvement from the last year, I would say, is in the landfill fund. And really, that's going to be a direct result from the increase in the sanitation rates that were implemented last year. But then there was also a lot more activity going through the landfill scale house this year, I think, with all of the roofs that were being replaced and all of that type of activity. So that was good to see, kind of reverse that trend of the loss in the landfill fund. Lane, if you want to go to the next slide. So again, not a whole lot of changes as far as, the breakout of business type activity revenues. It's all really consistent with last year. And then if you look at the expenditures on the next slide, really the only thing to point out there is that, the percentage share of revenues by the four different proprietary funds is really consistent with how that expenditures is also being broken out, which is what you would expect. I think what you wouldn't want to see there is that, there's excess cost in one fund compared to what they're bringing in for their share of revenue. So consistency there is good. On the next slide, Lane. So these last three slides, really all these are showing is just the trends in long-term debt. And the last two are going to just show how that debt compares to the total net position. So on this slide, again, the main thing you'll want to point out, which kind of goes back to that Exhibit A, is you'll notice that long-term debt in both governmental activities and business-type activities has decreased since the prior year. And on the next slide, so this is just going to show a couple of ratios of debt to equity and debt to revenue, and this is looking at governmental activities. So as far as the ratio of liabilities to net position, that's improved from the prior year, as well as the ratio of total liabilities to total revenues. And then on the last slide, this is just going to show the same information, but for the business type activities. And again, it's also improving just like the governmental activities are, but it's actually improving kind of at a greater rate of how fast the debt in those business type activities is getting paid down. So that's really all I had. If you guys have any questions, I'll try to answer those for you.
I don't necessarily have questions as much, I just want to restate some things and see if you agree with me.
Okay.
Okay, so in our non-business type, our governmental funds, we basically have $60 million worth of assets, I'm rounding, and 40 of it's paid for, and we have liabilities of 20. Agree with that?
That sounds right, without looking at that.
Okay. And then in our funds, our governmental funds, we're pretty much in good shape on all of them. The sewers got a little improving to do. We did fix the landfill last year after a couple bad years, but the rest of them, pretty good shape, right?
Right.
You don't see any evidence of us like borrowing money irresponsibly or spending money irresponsibly? Maybe you can't answer that, I don't know, but.
No, I don't think so. I mean, really, the only increase in debt that we saw, there was no new bonds or anything issued this year. Last year, there was that increase related to the Link 17J project.
Yeah.
But really, especially in the business type activities, and there's a couple schedules in there that shows the breakout of all of that debt, and I think there was, last year there was 5 long-term debt items on there, and I think that's dropped down to 2 or 3, so.
That's all I had.
Okay.
Fantastic. Well, we appreciate all the time and effort you guys put into that, and supporting what Lane has been taught to do so well here. So I guess with that, thank you, and we have a motion to approve that report.
Call motion.
Second.
All right, Brandon and Roger. Roll call?
Galloway?
Yes.
Sherman?
Yes.
Radcliffe?
Yes.
Bonnefield?
Yes.
Stroman?
Yes.
Perfect, motion passes 5-0 to approve. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
All right, now we have Mr. Michael Palmer taking a drink of water for his short presentation.
Got a little cough, so I apologize. In your packet, Mayor and Council, Mike Palmer, Electric Superintendent. In your packet, you should have a memo regarding a wind energy agreement that has been terminated with our wholesale power provider. They're basically replacing this with what they're terming a green energy program. So prior to this time, there was a wind pool and a landfill gas pool that you could subscribe into. for the needs, for the ease of administration, as well as allowing some other types of green energy to be put into the pool. They're terminating that and they're putting it in. So basically what they're asking is if we still want our 1.7% wind allocation that we subscribed to back in 2002. We don't have to do it. We just need to give them notice by March 31st. This will be effective April 1 of 2023. It's formula 1,257,000 kilowatt hours, I believe. Equates to 1.7% of our power usage.
So we've been getting this,
We have.
Okay.
Actually, this last fiscal year, there was probably about a 7% premium on that. At the last rate adjustment that will take place in April 1, it's now a 5%. So it does cost 5% more to be green, if you will.
Is there a benefit? Do we get some sort of carbon offset for this, or?
So the RECs are ours. That's part of the deal. As far as the benefit, I mean, the RECs do have some monetary value, but it's really not much now. Probably the downfall, if we didn't want to move forward, was this is a first come, first served basis. So if we say we don't want it right now, there's towns in Colorado that are standing in line waiting to get more green. So right now I know, and frankly, some of the reason they're doing this is so they can get some hydropower into this. They're trying to get more green. Anything that has RECs available, they're trying to get into this program. So towns, there's a queue right now of towns wanting to be 100% renewable. As you can see, we're still 62% coal. But that's probably pretty standard for a Nebraska community.
Do you sell those back into a marketplace? Is there?
We do not currently sell those back into a marketplace. I don't know if Mean would handle that for us or not. We could sure look into it. My understanding is the amount of RECs that we would get is the monetary value is not worth the effort to try to make $50. And I've thrown numbers out. One thing I tried to push at the board level was I truly believe that Mean should be doing this in a pro rata share of this, and then you could opt in on a yearly basis. I didn't have much luck convincing the other board members of that. So this is what it is: first come, first served. Probably one of the more important questions after, if you guys would want to. This is truly a policy decision. So from a staff perspective, I don't think we have a dog in the fight. If you want to have the wind power, that's fine. If you don't, that's fine too. Obviously, we just want to fulfill our power needs for the community. But after we have the wind conversation, probably what I would ask for is some more direction if we would want to go after some more green type energy and make that request to me.
So is it just a feel-good thing?
Well, obviously electrons are going to flow where they're going to flow.
Right.
It's all on paper, right? So.
Is it just a way to say, hey, we're more green
Oh yeah, I mean,
than
the
you are?
communities that are touting this is exactly what they're doing. Aspen, Colorado is a member of Mean. Gunnison,
Shocker.
Colorado. Glenwood Springs. Aspen and Glenwood Springs are 100% renewable. I mean, there's a huge,
Push for
I guess
that
it
there.
depends on your personal preference of that's truly it's a policy decision. How green do we want to be? My concern and what I tried to push at the board level was exactly that though. There is a potential, in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, that at some point there might be a carbon tax. Depending on administrations and how far the green push goes in the future, I truly believe at some point in the future there will be a carbon tax. So, if you're 62% coal, you're going to pay for that emission. Is it here now? No, it doesn't. In fact, it saves us money by not being green right now, 5%.
God, yeah, it's-
So,
Does that ever get used for qualifications on grants? Do they look at your profile and give preference to use that as a criteria for any grants or anything? Have we seen that? Okay.
I think there truly is probably, I don't know about the grants, I couldn't answer that either. From an economic development standpoint, there's some communities that push that, right? So, you know, Walmart wants to show that they're 100% green coming in all their energy. You can on the flip side of that, then if you are, you can say, all right, we're going to buy green energy for, and I'm just throwing Walmart as an example. I'm not saying that's what they requested it. But there's truly businesses out there that want to be served 100% from a renewable resource, and they're either going to do it themselves, or best case scenario is you would do it for them, right?
Well, that's why I was wondering if there's marketing value in that in the future.
I would think from an economic development standpoint, you could potentially, I mean, we're in western Nebraska, let's be real about where we're at too.
Yeah.
So,
can you accrue those over time? Is there a decay on the RECs? Let's say we wanted to bank them, right, and accrue them up so that we have,
I believe they're trued up on a yearly basis. I could get you that. I would hate to answer that. I don't.
Okay.
I don't know, but I'll get you that answer.
well, it's to what you were saying, if there comes a time where there is a tax and we've accrued X amount of these RECs, we could sell them back into the grid, or however they set it up for fungible sales so that we can get rid of them.
I know that I believe they're trued up yearly, and if you don't do anything, but I'll find out. That's a good question, actually. Can we just bank them for 20 years and use them in the future if there is a carbon tax?
Yeah.
If the wind doesn't blow, you're funny.
We make money.
I mean, the reason back in 2002, and this is kind of my undocumented history of this, is the reason that Sydney originally decided to buy wind power is because it was in our neighbor Kimball's backyard. So I think that, you know, to be a good neighbor, we decided that we're going to buy a little bit, and we've had it since that time. I mean, monetarily, I think the difference is $2,500 on a yearly. It will cost us $2,500 more to buy the wind on a yearly basis than if we just say we don't want it. Again, I'm fine either way.
I mean, we agreed to have someone build us a solar array,
Mhm.
so I don't know why we would say no to 2% of our power being wind. I mean, seems
I
like
mean,
a
that's
no.
another good point too. Actually, we are getting greener.
Yeah.
That solar array, recall, is 5% of our offtake when we start receiving that energy. That will be 5%. Although that is right now at a cheaper rate than
Yeah.
wholesale energy rate.
So we've been buying the wind energy for X number of years, and obviously I think we should probably continue doing that. I guess the biggest question would be if we wanted to increase incrementally over the next 5 years or something like that. You were saying something like we need to get on that now and start.
We would have to
moving
make
towards that?
we would have to make a request from Mean to purchase more green energy. Excuse me. And it is on a first come first served basis. So, like I said, Gunnison, Colorado is waiting in line for more green energy, no matter what it is. So they're currently served, and I'm throwing out a percentage here that I don't know what it is, but say they're 50%. Once Mean puts more into this pool, they're the first ones that get a pull out of it. So if we would want to do something that in the future, we need to decide what it needs to be in a pretty short fashion. Like, do we want to? Is our goal 20% green? I mean, I don't know. I'm just, again, if you want to know my personal preference, I
We
like
do.
the cheapest we can get.
Yeah, well, and that's my biggest point is, you know, obviously, to what Paul alluded to, we're doing this is, it seems like the right thing to do. It may be something down the road that we're forced to do, and if we at least have our foot in the door towards more, you know, I think that's the best path. But tonight, we're just trying to decide if we want to continue the current agreement at this point, right?
Yeah, basically, enter into a new agreement,
Or,
with
yeah.
the old amount.
And is it for a 20-year period again? or-
No, so it's actually, this one actually has some benefits. You can get out with proper notice.
Okay.
So the other one was, you were stuck. You had it was kind of like, as long as we were buying power from them, we were buying that wind power. The green energy agreement has a notice of, you know, a couple of years or whatever it is. I don't remember off the top of my head, but you can say, we don't want this anymore. And then it would be, if there wasn't communities that were standing in line for it, then it would be brought into the overall pool of mean and then kind of mushed out from there. We'd still probably get some of it from a cost perspective.
You done grilling him?
Yeah.
Have you had enough?
I'll stand up there all night if you
There,
want me to.
there won't be any interruptions in our flow of power, though, is that correct? If you're hesitating.
Well, I'm always hesitant to say there won't be any, there won't be anything tied to this contract that would keep power from coming. So if
Okay.
the wind doesn't blow, Mean's gonna true that up on with a base load resource, right? So, that's kind of the.
From a load perspective, they're not going to say, here's some extra credits for you. They're not going to say, here's some extra RECs because we weren't able to provide you with the power, right? They're going to continue to provide us.
They're still, so,
All right.
if they don't provide us with this, they will go out and procure RECs for us, which I think I tried to fight against that too. I think that should be up to the means. Like, because obviously that goes into means, budget.
Right.
And we're gonna pay for it one way or the other. And they kind of fought me on that one. They said, if we're selling green energy, it's gotta be green. I thought it should still be up to the community. Because, I mean, there have been times where we were oversubscribed from a wind perspective. So when they were decommissioning Kimball Wind and repowering that, obviously the towers are gone. So they were still either, if there wasn't anything on the open market, they were going out and buying RECs for them.
I'm done.
You sure?
Yeah, I got no more questions. I was just curious.
No, I think you asked everything I wanted to bring up, so.
Well, so we're asking for a motion to approve this ordinance, to designate the ordinance. Motion to designate ordinance 1843, if that exists.
So moved.
Somewhere up here.
Second.
Bert and Roger. All right, so go ahead. Roll call.
Sherman?
Yes.
Radcliffe?
Yes.
Bonnegar?
Yes.
Stroman?
Yes.
Galloway?
Yes.
Okay, so now we'll have the clerk read the title.
An ordinance authorizing and directing execution of the Green Energy Program subscription confirmation by the City of Sidney, Nebraska with the Municipal Energy Agency of Nebraska to prescribe the time when this ordinance shall be in full force and in effect.
Excellent. We have a potential to waive 3 more readings of bringing Mike in here and
2 more.
rehashing this whole thing. If somebody wants to make a motion to waive the 3 readings, then they could certainly do that.
Does it matter, Mike? When do you need?
We need to give them notice by March 31st. So we need to have the ordinance in place by March 31st if we want. I mean, since you voted on it, we need to let them know that we want that. So the ordinance has to be passed by that point.
We just designated it.
So to answer your question, probably at the next meeting. I guess we have one the 28th too, so we really could go through the whole process. I mean, it's,
Waste of
Does
time?
this-
Oh, I'm sorry. Go on.
no,
I'll make a motion, we suspend the 3 readings.
I will second that.
And Paul seconds to waive the roll call.
Radcliffe,
Yes.
Bonnefield,
Yes.
Stroman,
Yes.
Galloway,
Yes.
Sherman.
Yes. All right, so we waive the 3 readings. Now we need a motion to pass ordinance 1843.
I'll motion.
Second.
Brandon and Burke. Roll call.
Bonnefield,
Yes.
Stroman,
Yes.
Galloway.
Yes.
Sherman.
Yes.
Radcliffe.
Yes.
All right, now the clerk gets to read the number.
1843.
Fantastic reading. Now we need a motion to publish ordinance 1843.
So move.
Second.
Roger and Paul. Roll call?
Did you say Galloway and
Well, I said Roger and Paul, but yes, Galloway and Stroman.
Stroman?
Either.
Sounds more like a band when it's the first
Yeah,
names.
I better stick to the phrase, Galloway and Stroman.
Roger and Paul
Stroman,
from across the
yes.
pond.
Galloway,
Yes.
Sherman.
Yes.
Radcliffe.
Yes.
Bonnefield.
Yes.
Excellent job, everybody. It passes 5-0. Mike, thank you for your time. Sorry we won't get to see you again next meeting unless you...
no, that's perfectly
something
fine
else.
with me, thank you.
But apparently you're going to stand right there and...
Just before we move on to that, just kind of keep in the back of your mind, if there is a big push for, we do need to get on that bandwagon now. So, again, I don't think there probably is, but if there is, we don't want to be late to the party. Okay?
Okay.
All right.
Now, talk to us about what you're going to give us.
All right, so this is a lot more exciting. The Choice Gas Program is an annual program that gives customers the opportunity to choose the natural gas supplier that provides pricing option that best suits their needs. Customers in the Choice Gas Program have a unique opportunity, something not everyone has. You have the power to choose your natural gas supplier and what you want to pay for your natural gas. Public Alliance for Community Energy, better known as ACE, encourages participation in the Nebraska Gas Program, which provides an opportunity for Nebraska customers of the Black Hills Distribution System to choose their natural gas supplier. ACE was created in 1998 with 3 goals.
Excuse me.
Lower rates for consumers through competition, advocacy for the consumer by keeping abreast of issues that impact your gas bill, and a potential direct benefit to communities through the Revenue Return Program. Since its beginning, ACE has worked tirelessly to meet these goals. At the January 2023 ACE Board of Director meeting, the board voted to distribute $200,000 back to its members. Because of this action, $16,825 represents Sydney's share of the ACE distribution for fiscal year 2022-2023. Since its inception in 1998, ACE has given over $3.5 million back to Nebraska communities, including $258,000 coming back to Sydney. These funds have been used to help with the construction of the Legion Park Pond for the playground project in the Legion Park. ACE was formed by Nebraska communities for primary purpose of providing local control and ensuring competitive choice to consumers regarding natural gas supply. ACE is marking its 25th year in the Nebraska Choice Program. The selection period is set for April 6th through the April 26th. Selection forms will be mailed out to all eligible customers prior to the start of the selection period. ACE is the only community-owned not-for-profit supplier in the program. We encourage you to compare prices and pricing options during the selection period to receive the lowest rate at the best pricing option. But remember, when choosing ACE, means you have both a great rate and community impact. When you choose ACE as your natural gas supplier, you are keeping your dollars in your community across our state and empowering our community. Also, to celebrate ACE's 25th anniversary, ACE is offering 25 Lucky Choice Gas residential customers free gas for up to a year, 700 therms. That's average. So, kind of a new thing they're doing this year to celebrate their 25th. There'll be 25 random people drawn that will get free gas for a year. So, with that, Mr. Mr. Mayor, if you would come down and I
Get a picture with the big
fancy
check?
for you. I was told I have to get photos,
Oh,
so.
does anybody have a camera?
Lori's working on it too.
Gonna be any evidence of this?
Mike, we're doing it.
Here, you hold that. Oh, there we go. And then hold this.
We need a bigger check.
I had a bigger check.
You're gonna hear that a lot.
Ooh, that was too big. Thank you.
All right. You get to keep that. You get to keep that
Keep
too.
that?
Yeah,
It's
there
not
you
the
go.
actual check, though, is it?
Make sure you sign the back.
Any questions regarding that?
You can't catch it.
I do have,
try.
I don't know if it's a question or a comment. Is there any plans to make it more easy, even easier to sign up? Because I have to tell you, as I sit here now, I wish I was in ACE. I have no idea if I am or not. I don't see this thing show up at my house from April 4th to April 26th. I don't know if I sign up.
Well, there's so the Public Service Commission, I think it's trying to, so there's been some campaigning in the past from some of the other suppliers
Right.
that I would say
Makes it
was,
confusing.
yeah, a little bit suspect, honestly, that they were trying to tell you that you need to make a selection or whatever.
Before this,
They're trying to get rid of some of that. I think, so you can sign up directly through ACE if you want to. So during that selection period, there is a call-in number that should be, I can provide it to you if they don't,
Okay.
you can't get it, but they,
I think you can go in through Choice Gas.
you can.
Can't you?
So Choice Gas, you can do it through Choice Gas.
Yeah, that's the easy way to do it.
Yeah,
as
I
far-
think, and then you can price all the different options. Yeah, I mean, it is a little bit, it's a little bit different, there's no question about it. And, the main thing I want to drive home now is, and we'll probably, as it gets closer to that April timeline, is just select. If you do not
Yeah, you
select,
get
you're
the
costing
default,
yourself a tremendous amount of money, because rollover rates are almost, well, they're not almost, they are always historically higher. So, no matter who you are, you need to select.
do we have any idea about the number of households in Sydney that would be signed up for ACE? I mean, is it a 10% number or 50% number?
So we are, historically, I don't know the numbers this year. I would say we're the largest ACE community from a monetary perspective. So when I look at our
The checks
revenue
that are-
returns, and it's all based upon volume. So
Okay.
I will say that ACE as a whole has lost community, or lost, and some of the reason is we're there to drive competition, right? So we're not there to be the cheapest, even though we want to be. We want to drive that competition. I think the Choice program now has 7 suppliers. At its inception, there was 3. So there's been more people that have, started to be suppliers, which has kind of eroded the customer base. ACE is pretty notorious. They give a rate, and they watch during the campaign, and the rate doesn't fluctuate from customer to customer. There are suppliers out there that cherry pick customers. So you have a good account, they'll give you a better rate. Which I guess is understandable, but that's not something that, it's, and gas was just super high last year too. If you would have selected a 2-year plan 2 years ago, you hit the jackpot.
We usually do an open house every year.
Yep.
Yeah, I know.
So as we get closer, we'll, as part of the revenue return program, we want to get out in the community. We've done the open house, the coffee talk, with not a lot of success. People don't, and maybe it needs to be at night, maybe that would help. Maybe feed them, they'll come, I don't know, but.
We do door to door.
What's that?
You did?
Door to door.
We used to hang flyers, that's against the rules now,
Oh.
can't do that. So, anyways.
It's like a
As
slush
it gets
fund.
closer, we'll get some more information out there, and I'll talk to ACE, the folks at ACE, and be like, is there anything we can do to help educate the customer? Because that's some of it, right? We're trying to advocate for the customer, and some of that's just understanding what you're getting into. So maybe thinking out loud here a little bit, the open house in the evening when people have more of a chance to come talk and ask questions might be more appropriate. But,
Okay,
all right,
thank you.
anything else? Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Mike. All right, so now David Scott, one of his many presentations this evening.
Or we could just have Al Stroman, campaign manager, do our ace signs for us.
Yeah, do you want to do that? Set those up. Do you want me to go out and do door hangers? Nobody told me I couldn't do that, so.
Heck, yeah.
That's awesome.
So I guess the reason I'm bringing this to you is, at the last meeting, we talked about some of the legislative bills that we're going to discuss. And thank you for those of you that did go and speak in front of the legislature about LD 397. Appreciate that very much, and the community appreciates that very much. But this one has to do more along the lines with LB 712, where they are designating or requesting to designate $26 million from the state's reserve fund into a special fund for communities affected by the GBSD project, the Global Base Strategic Deterrent Project. And when we talked about this last week, I mentioned an economic impact study, and I know there were some council members that seemed interested in that. I don't know that anybody was really that came out and said, yes, we want to vote right now to do that. But there was interest, and so I did contact a few companies. I reached out to some of our usual suspects like RDG to see if that was something they would do. And the answer I got back from them was really isn't really what they do, and they're more engineering firms, and they really wouldn't be able to get anything in any kind of significant time for us. I don't really know what the time frame is, honestly. I know next week I'll be going to Lincoln to speak on behalf of this legislative bill, but I don't know what time frame that will be between the time you go to committee and go to the floor and get a plan written up for how you apply for it. I mean, I'm guessing it's going to be at least a couple months before they do something like that. So I did reach out to Goss & Associates. This is the same company that did Kimball's impact study for them. So they have a lot of that information, at least from the military side already. So that speeds up the process a little bit. And they've given me, I think they put a date in here, completion date of a little bit further than what I wanted. And I did talk to them, and they said they could do it even sooner. So they can at least have this done in 2 months, if this is something that council so chooses to do. I know it's not a really fancy document. I didn't give them much time to put this together. I told them I wanted it for this meeting, at least a proposal. And so it doesn't, it doesn't have a lot of really fanciness to it, but they did kind of write a lot of it in the hotel lobby. But anyway, it would be a cost of $16,000 if this is something the council would like to pursue. I don't really know how to advise you, other than if there's $26 million on the table, will we get some of that? We don't know. Maybe we'll get none of it. Maybe we'll get some of it. Maybe we'll get a lot of it. But I think it behooves us to probably show that we are deserving of it and that we're going to be impacted. If we spend $16,000 and we get no money out of this bill, then I guess we spend $16,000. But it's really to not put our best foot forward when there's $26 million on the table. But I will leave that up to the council to decide whether they want to move forward with this, want me to engage with them, and actually move forward with doing this impact study or not. But right now it's just a proposal from Goss & Associates.
Do you have a big $16,000 check sitting
Oh,
over
here
there?
it is. He does. Still have $825.
Well,
You wanna just-
I'll read you.
Let me just sign it over.
Yeah.
Endorse Goss & Associates.
Cash.
Done.
Sign over cash.
That's how it's done. Now this, the bill that's in the legislature right now, is there potential for other ones for this? Or is this basically our?
This is the only one I know that actually sets money aside for communities. And I know that already 5 or 4, I'm sorry.
That's what I was
4
gonna
of the-
say.
4 of the 9 people in the committee are actually signed on to the bill, so the odds
Yeah.
that we're getting out of committee are very strong. I think there's only maybe 1 or 2 that are even wavering. It
Yeah.
sounds like we have a really good chance of at least getting this to the floor, so.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. The number of sponsors that have signed on, it should make it out of committee.
Which
And
committee
a lot
is
of
it?
Committee members are signing on. So
Yeah.
that's-
Which committee is it?
Which one are they
This
under?
one is in the
Natural?
military and veterans affairs.
Okay,
Oh, okay.
Because last one was natural.
right.
And so if we do this study, and there are other possibilities, I mean, this is gonna give us an estimate of what this impact is going to
Correct.
do, which would help us if we needed a housing grant or something else along the way too. We'd have.
Well, that's what I was going to say, because we can use information out of this towards other projects.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Because we're going to be doing a trails grant, street and safety grant. Economic impact, that information should be useful in all kinds of programs.
I think Jason Melky would probably like to have something like this
I think it'd be very useful.
in his,
So not only can we use it for this, we probably could use it for 3, 4 other programs.
Well, I just really can't figure out a reason not to do it right here.
Well, you tell me when you're ready.
Well, unless anybody else has any questions on why we should do it, we probably could use a motion to go forward with the economic impact study of the global-based strategic deterrent.
I move to proceed with the economic impact study.
I'll second.
Galloway and Mondegaard. Roll call.
Galloway?
Yes.
Sherman?
Yes.
Radcliffe?
Yes.
Sonnegar?
Yes.
Stroman?
Yes.
All right, the motion passes unanimously. Nice job, Dan. All right, so now we have Heidi come talk to us about what she does over there, and what we can do for her as well.
Heidi Gillespie, I'm the director for the 911 Communication Center for Cheyenne and Buell counties. Hopefully in your packet of information, you've got a couple of handouts for your consideration, and I'm going to reference these. The first one is the relevant page from the state's contract with Motorola for the 911 Communication Center radio dispatching equipment that I'll be talking about. And the other is a budgetary quote from Motorola for that equipment. Our current radio consoles are a non-public safety rated, like a taxi cab sort of dispatching system. It's called the MIP 5000. It is a Motorola product. It was installed in 2013. At this time, Motorola no longer makes, updates, or supports this system. They are at their end of life. We're beginning to have some problems with them. So it is necessary to replace this system. And currently, we have no fully functional backup radio system. If our radios were to completely break down and become unrepairable between now and the time we get them replaced, I do have a COOP plan in place, but it wouldn't be very pretty, and it wouldn't be fully functional. I do have a stopgap measure in place at this point to upgrade the operating system for our radios from Windows 7 to Windows 10, and that's going to buy us some time, hopefully enough time, but I can't really say for sure how long. So the state of Nebraska has a purchasing contract with Motorola for 911 center radio consoles that are public safety compliant. The first handout is the relevant page from that state contract. Line 22 talks about the radio consoles. It's the only part in that entire, well, it's an 8-page document that applies to what I'm talking about. That shows you the price the state negotiated with Motorola. The radio consoles are Motorola's MCC 7500 series. And through this contract, our comm center can purchase a 2-position setup. We have 2 positions right now for a 25% discount for a total of approximately $483,970. That quote does include shipping, installation, and training for my staff. It does not include what our Motorola rep has advised us to plan on, which is an approximate 12% price increase, just a market price increase by the time a contract can be signed. So adding that would be an additional $58,000 to $80. So for a total price of about $542,080 is what it's gonna cost to get a new radio system. To help offset that price tag, we are able to use some of our wireless 911 tax surcharge funds that have been collected but thus far unused to help cover the cost. Public Service Commission stated that as of April 30th of last year, we have $189,261.60 in that account. The current total is probably more than that. That's almost a year old. But they haven't completed their audits for last year yet, and I don't have that total. So to be safe, that's the number I'm working from. So we're planning to use $150,000 from that for this system, which would bring the overall cost down to roughly $392,080. So my authority board and I are looking into a variety of funding sources to help accomplish this mission critical goal, and time is of the essence because, as I said, our current radio system is starting to experience some problems. David and Lane have been working with me as well to help identify additional funding mechanisms for this, like ARPA funds and various grants. What's been discussed thus far is that the city may be willing to commit some of the ARPA funds to help cover the cost of this, commensurate with their current budget ratio for my budget, which is 61.08%. That would amount to $239,482.46. However, when I presented this information last week at the Cheyenne County Commissioners meeting, it was realized that any grants that I applied for to help offset the cost of this would be distributed on a reimbursement basis. So ARPA funds might not be the way you want to go. That might not be the best solution for every contributing entity, since it's not a fund that can be reimbursed if a grant is awarded. Cheyenne County Commissioners are considering ARPA funds. They were also, at their percentage rate to help pay for this. Their percentage rate is 32.92, so their amount to contribute would be $129,072.74. They discussed committing ARPA funds or using tax monies from an account like the inheritance tax as examples, but as yet they haven't decided on anything. I'll be meeting with Jewell County Commissioners next week on the 21st to see if there are any unused ARPA funds that haven't been expended or committed to help offset the cost of this. Their percentage is currently at 6%, so their portion of this bill would be roughly $23,524.80. And the discussion about any uncommitted ARPA funds and grant reimbursement, I'll give them the same information. My authority board also asked me to reach out to all of the villages in both counties to check and see if they have any unused ARPA funds that have been expended or committed. I completed that task as of last night. The last meeting was with Dalton Village Board, and all villages have either spent, committed, or have other plans for ARPA funds. As I mentioned, additional funding sources are being explored. I have applied for the 2023 Homeland Security Grant Funds for the full amount of $392,080. If you don't ask, the answer is no. Right? So I asked. But that is a competitive process, obviously, so there's no guarantees on if or how much would be awarded. Even if we were to be awarded the full amount, it would be distributed, as I mentioned, on a reimbursement basis. Plus, Motorola's pay schedule does not offer a buy now, pay later sort of option. Their payment terms are set and do not accommodate the timelines that Homeland Security Grant uses. So one way or another, the local entities are going to have to pay for the project up front and then seek reimbursement options after the fact. This year's Homeland Security Grant process has begun, but I will not hear about any monies awarded until sometime in July, when there would, if we are awarded money, it would be released in September of this year to be spent. I may know sooner if the application does not make it past the first two committees in this process, but that of course would be bad news. The first committee for this grant process meets sometime in March, usually the second or third week, to go over all the applications. If ours makes it past that committee, the next committee meets in April. If it makes it past that committee, it'll go to the Lieutenant Governor's Advisory Committee, and ultimately they'll discuss it, and based on those recommendations, the Lieutenant Governor makes the final decisions. I have also applied to the Buckley Trust for $200,000 of grant monies for this. They responded to me that based on the Homeland Security Grant Fund application, they're going to wait on the results of that before they convene and discuss to decide on whether they want to help fund this or not. Let's see. I don't have any information on how much is going to be awarded for Homeland Security Grant funds. They haven't announced that yet, so I don't have any idea how much is up for the competitions. I do know that there are roughly 68 911 comm centers across the state, and any or all of them may apply for funding for their projects as well, big or small. The grant application I submitted is one of the bigger ones that they see. And this program is for public safety entities only, and it's broken down into 3 categories. So law enforcement, fire services, and communications. Our radio console system would fall under communications, so we won't be competing against the other disciplines, just projects specific to communications. If we are awarded that, the payments are typically broken out over the 3-year grant period. And this other handout, pretty picture on the front, gives some basic information about the radio system. It is public safety rated, state-of-the-art for public safety, and would not need to be replaced in 10 years like our current system, because it is an internet-based software program that can be serviced and updated remotely, with an internet connection. There's a couple of significant benefits to this system. Scotts Bluffs Dispatch Center and Shadron's have either just completed or are close to completing their projects for this exact system right now. They've gone through this process. This is going to allow us to have virtual backup capabilities with them that are geographically diverse. So if one community experiences an issue that causes them to lose their radio systems, the other one could pick up and dispatch for them until we could get somebody to that location to take that off their shoulders. So that's really nice. That's a huge thing as far as I'm concerned. And if our courthouse, if we have to evacuate, it would be a matter of minutes rather than hours. For Scottsbluff County, our Shadron could dispatch for us until we could get to their facility, and vice versa. All 3 of these comm centers already have that capability with our phone equipment, and this would fully eliminate the need for a brick and mortar backup center. Those are a thing of the past from a cost perspective. Those are incredibly cost prohibitive and have not been a viable option for our comm center for at least a decade. The risk of significant interruption in service due to any localized emergency would really be a thing of the past once we get this in place. It would also allow the agencies that we dispatch for to use the emergency notification equipment they already have on their portable radios, whose intent is it's like a silent panic alarm. It's their emergency button. So if they get to a physical altercation with a suspect, or otherwise find themselves experiencing an emergency that does not allow them to speak over their radio, they can hit that emergency button. But what happens with this new system is when they hit that emergency button, it locks their radio open. It locks that frequency to their radio and their radio only. So we can hear them talk, or we can hear the struggle, or any other background noise. And it identifies who it is, so we can figure out who we need to send help to. Currently, if they push that button, it doesn't do anything, it doesn't go anywhere. I'm not sure what the time frame is, how long it locks that open, but that is a huge responder safety thing. There's more benefits, those are the two biggest ones that I wanted to point out. And that's all I have for you. I appreciate your time and your consideration, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them for you.
Yeah, as you know, both myself and Chief Aiken sit on the Communications Authority Board, and so we were on all these conversations. We were also there when Heidi met with the county commissioner. And first of all, I do want to commend Heidi and thank her for doing everything she could. In fact, we even made her talk to every single city in the county to see if they had any money laying around, that they would be, because a lot of these smaller cities get these ARPA monies and there's just such small amounts they can't really do anything with it, and they wind up giving it back, and so we kind of sent her around to see if that was the case anywhere, for her to scrounge up some of that. So I do want to thank you for that, Heidi, for doing all that work for us, and also for applying these other grants. I believe what we had kind of, and Joe can correct me if I'm saying it correctly, I think what we had kind of come to is that it was, Heidi didn't mention this, but the cost to upgrade the Windows server was, we estimated 16,000, came well under that, right, like 6,800. We did decide to do that right away in hopes that it would buy us time to find out how these grants would come in. She says we hope it buys us enough time. We don't know that, but we hope it will. We know that that will at the very least enhance the capability of the system from having been at old Windows 7 to Windows 10. What I guess we're asking at this point is, when we know more, we may come back and ask to use some ARPA money to pay for the rest of this. And another beautiful aspect of this, but at least for the cities, say, I don't know about the county or Duval County or Charlotte County, but for us, it buys us a little bit of time to see in the next 3 or 4 months how our bids will come in on our water and our wastewater treatment facility projects. That's giving us an idea of what we have left for our projects, which I think we probably still have this much. We would still have 230,000.
Would it be roughly like 140, you're saying, how much we
Right.
have to the wastewater?
Early estimates on what we've spent so far, the auditors went over that, and most of that was the water line under Elm Street, and then there was some reimbursement for salaries and wages that they allowed us to use. But other than that, the auditors are right, we have not actually spent more than about 270,000 of it. And early estimates on the water and wastewater treatment projects would show that we would probably still have enough to cover this estimated 240,000 if everything else failed and there were no other funding sources that became available. But we just want you to be aware of the progress of this and hear what's going on. And I thank Heidi for filling in on everything that we've been talking about in our authority board meetings. So I don't know that we really are asking you to make a decision yet. We just want you to be aware that this may happen if all else fails, but we really have tried to turn over every rock we possibly could in this situation.
If you guys have any suggestions, if there's something that you can think of that I can go and check for a funding source, I'd be happy to look into it.
Well, it sounds like you have done lots of legwork, as David said.
Try.
Trying to find as much as we can, and I appreciate that.
What's the timeline on the grants?
It's the decision for awarding money is 3 years. It sunsets in 3 years.
So we're kind of trying to weigh our options till September.
We're trying to find some time
Right.
to find out whether this is, and hopefully that doesn't backfire on us is what we're kind of doing.
Yeah.
So tonight, we don't need to take any action on this. We
No.
just need to know that you're trying, but you might need some money later.
This may come where we want you to get our elected we need to spend it by 2026 and have it allocated by 2024, so we are getting handled up last year to allocate it, so that if this is something we need to do, this is a good way to spend it.
Okay, thank
Well,
you.
thank you very much, we appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Now we're back to David.
We got a cool picture of David,
On a slide, or we got the old
Oh, we
easel?
went old school.
I like it.
Lane did
I have
arts and crafts while I was out of town.
Lane's been playing with the crayons.
We've got
Yeah.
all
This
sorts
was
of
happening
media
when I was
involved
in
in
town.
tonight's.
We're gonna
I
whiteboard
left
this,
my
Aaron. This is
kindergarten
great.
cutting, I'll just do it record.
No.
No, I didn't. It was I don't know which one's first. What do I have up here?
Well, look, I guess I'll give you a quick rundown. As you know, the voters approved in November to renew our half-cent local option sales tax to be used for infrastructure, and we had several categories in that. We had some money for the parks, some money for, of course, a big section for streets, some for wastewater, or I'm sorry, not wastewater, some for stormwater with the NRD, some portion of it at the golf course, and another portion of it at the pool. What I started thinking when I was looking at some of these projects that we had kind of talked about and maybe pitched to the public when we were wanting to get them, to the public when we wanted to get them to vote for this, or what we presented to them, I should say, rather than this. Were a lot of them involved concrete work, I noticed. The parking lot at the golf course was a concrete job. The pool parking lot and connecting the pool to the trail was also a concrete job. And then as well as the parking lot over by the Memorial Gardens was also a concrete job. I called, and Lane and I had a conversation with our bonding council to see if it was even possible to mix buckets. You know, your park, your pool, and your golf all in one bond, and he said it is. It's a little bit more work for the finance director to break it all out to make sure it hits the right bucket when we're making those bond payments. But we certainly can do that, so we would not be mowing and demowing and pay all that cost to do this over. One bond for this, one bond for that, one bond for, and then you got to pay more to the construction company because every time they do it, they got to bring in all their equipment and tear it all down. So what we wanted to propose to the council, and this is just a proposal at this point, we're not asking for anything more than your ideas, whether you think we should move forward with this plan of action or not. But we think that it would save significant amount of money to bid out all the concrete parts of these projects as one. Then you get one company bidding for all this rather than several different projects bidding out for different bond issues. Now, there is another option as well. The council can say, well, we don't want to spend our money ahead of time. We want to sit for 10 years and let it build up and then do these projects. And that's an option as well. That's what we did with our street money. We saved up the money and then we paid essentially cash for the last two projects we did over on Elm Street and out there on 13th Street. We did not do that 10 years ago with the pool and the golf. We did those projects right away and bought them for them and then used the sales tax proceeds to pay them off over time. So the other option, or the other concerns that we had were interest rates are not very favorable right now. So when we talked to bond council, some of the things we decided we need to weigh is the interest rates, how long will they stay this high, and also what's the cost of not doing this, because materials and everything else are going through the roof right now, as you know, they have been for the last couple of years. So those are things to weigh. In our mind, we thought it probably would be better to, if we were going to bond, if you choose to bond, and do these projects sooner rather than later, we would issue one, but we would issue it as callable so that we could basically refinance that if interest rates in the next couple of years became more favorable to do so. And that's always, I think, a smart move when interest rates are where they're at right now. But that's a lot of different things to talk about. The cool pictures are probably more important, right? What we did is just kind of try to draw out some of the areas that we thought would be included in this, which one's this is the Memorial Gardens parking lot, and there may be some engineering needed in some of these areas. Probably not the pool, that's just going to be straight up flat. and then the trails that connect it won't require a whole lot. But there's a lot of tie-ins here where it ties into these roads where you come in and out of there. But this is a horrible drainage problem right now. It just washes that gravel all the way down this road every time it rains, and it's always been a nightmare. And I don't know that there was anything that we talked about in our, I can't remember if we brought this up. Did we bring this up? We talked about this in our original meeting. I think we did bring it up, but, so this was one portion where we thought would be included, and then of course the golf course. This is the surface area, and that would have a little tie in there, but the part with this, we probably might need some engineering on how it's going to drain, because as you know, it's very slopey up there, so we might want to get some engineering done on that. I don't know how much that will cost, but that would probably be something we want to do on that portion. But then it makes some bids with the other two, you're not buying for just the golf course, and then public's like, what? You're mixing this in with everything else, so there's a deck there, that right. And then the pool, and here's how we kind of had this drawn up, and I know Roger and I have went out and looked at this a few times too. We have trying to connect it into, the Lodgepole Creek in that neighborhood there. And we also want to, the red ones are where we would be doing new trails. The blue is existing, and as you know, where it comes down in front of the community center, it just kind of stops right there in front of the Hartswood basketball court, and then everybody's in the street after that. So we would want to continue that, and then we would also want to continue this and bring it in to connect to the Lodgepole Creek apartments and all that kind of area. And then what we would do here is connect it like we had talked about and bring it around behind that ball field. And am I doing that right? Well, this just brings it off the street and connects it into this trail. And originally we were going to do it this way behind the ball field, but then we thought people are going to cut across here anyway, right? They're going to. So we just had two entrances, one for people coming one way on the trail, one for people coming the other way on the trail. If you're coming this way, you would cut through here like this. Coming this way, you would cut through here like this. And it would bring it behind ball field 4 and tie it into the pool. And then here, of course, is the surface of the parking lot that's that really bad gravel right now. Everybody gets stuck in. And then another point of interest that had gotten mentioned to me by Mr. Radcliffe, and I love the idea, honestly, and our map doesn't show it, but we could connect this into that Deaver Drive with very little addition too. And then you're connecting to a great big neighborhood with a ton of kids in that area by doing that. So I thank you for that suggestion you got in the packet. That's a fantastic one, and it's not much more addition, really. It would just have to go in front of that church or whatever
Jehovah's.
Jehovah's Witness Church. Yeah, you would just run it in the right of way there and connect it into that neighborhood. I don't know how many kids are that in right there. There's a bunch in there, so that's a great idea. But anyway, these were just kind of the ideas that we had thrown out and thinking that it would save money to bid a project all encompassing, and like I said, that's also beneficial to the golf course and some of these other things. So sometimes you get pushed back to just a project for the golf course, and then but so that's kind of our plan.
What,
I just wanted to know what the council.
Yeah. But we talked about mixing buckets, money from different parts of the half-cent sales tax.
Right. Because this would involve 3 different sections. The park department would be the parking lot over by Memorial Gardens, right? That would have to come out of the park pool, which was, I don't remember the percentage. You have to maybe those somewhere down here. The park was like 10%, wasn't it? I think it was. I have to remind myself what the percentages were, but I think the park
10%.
was, yes, the park was 10%, so that portion of the project would have to come out of the park sales tax.
Why?
The income we get from that, because it's part of the park, it's in the park.
Part of the street, too.
Yeah, well, it could be. I never thought about that. I don't know if they would consider that street. We might be able to do that, because we actually have money in street department right now.
Well, and that's
And we have
kind
money
of,
in park right now, actually.
but that's kind of the point where I'm going with this is, when we initially put in this local half-cent sales tax, the idea was to supplement the city's resources for big projects, new projects that we wanted to take on that we couldn't accomplish through an annual budget.
Correct.
So I guess what I'm getting to is, You know, the last time we did this, you know, with the streets are still 50%. And like you said, that was the last project that was done. The golf course was the first project was done, about 1.2 million, something like that. So that was the first thing was done. Swimming pool was the second thing that was done. And it just seemed like as that last one ran its course, the parks was the last piece to get addressed. And in some ways, it kind of got nickel and dimed because, well, we used a little bit of money for siding on a bathroom. Well, we're going to use some money to do the tennis courts because they were needing attention. And I just felt like we didn't do the original intent of that money was to take on a new project and build an amenity for the city that we don't currently have. So I'm afraid of doing that again by using a little bit of money here for some concrete work, a little bit of money for something else, and the next thing you know, we don't have money to take on a park project like we should, and I think like the citizens deserve. I know we've talked forever about a splash pad, and we even talked about that in planning.
Right.
I think these are all great projects. So that's not what I'm saying. I think they're all great projects, and I think it's smart to probably tie your concrete needs into one bigger bid to be more cost effective. But I really, really would like to see the parks money utilized for one of the bigger projects that we've talked about over the years. You know, we talked about the splash pad before the new swimming pool was built. And I think that's still something the community is interested in, and I think that's still one of our goals.
The reason I didn't include anything on the north side was because I figured that would be a whole separate.
Well, that's what
project.
but that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I would hate to see a portion of money go towards a part of a parking lot if that money could come out of something else, whether it's the streets half-cent sales tax portion or grant funds that are being pursued through the Safe Streets program with Jason Nelke. You know, we have potential for literally millions of dollars through that.
That'd be a couple years down the road.
Right, right. And like you said, not necessarily that we have to accomplish all of this on day one. I just think it's a good project. I would hate to rob Peter to pay Paul, and then we end up leaving the parks in kind of a dysfunctional situation where we don't really have enough money to accomplish much of anything.
We did increase their percentage. From
Yes.
10, which is, I think, was a good move.
Yeah.
I don't know, honestly, what the cost would be for that portion. For
Right.
the Memorial Gardens would be the only thing that would be parked, because the other one would be pool and golf, right?
Mhm.
I don't know what that parking lot would be. But if we were to bid, we would certainly have to make the bid to where they would give us separate. Even though it's one price, we need to know exactly what the breakdown
That-
is between.
yeah,
the
it'd all be
two
broken down.
To apply
Yeah.
it to the right funds. And nothing guarantees that if we did do something like this, that we would have to follow through with all of the bid. We can word it where we may do all the part. It wouldn't hurt to find out, I don't think, what that parking lot would cost, but it's
Right.
up to you guys if you don't want to do that. Because we're already gonna be paying somebody to, we're already gonna be putting a bid out, so, and if we chose to move forward with, I really think the most important part to me is the pool and tying it to the trail. I really want to get the kids off those.
I agree.
I really don't want to wait 10 years
Yeah.
to do that.
Well, there was a lot of things with the pool project that were left behind. There were plenty of promises made that were not followed through on, and we did not get everything that we had hoped to get out of that.
I know there was some
Yeah.
some other issues with how the pool project blew up.
I mean, we have one slide when that was the number one feature that kids requested on the surveys that were sent out. I know I fought for the tower to at least accommodate 2 slides, and promises were made. Well, yeah, we'll add one later. We'll add one later. Well, we still don't have one. I always made the comment too that there was no planning for sidewalks, which we're talking about now. It's just like it was expected that kids are all of a sudden now going to drive themselves to the pool. So I think there was a lot of promises made that weren't upheld by different groups promising to help fundraise and such as that. But being what it is, now we got to find a way to fix it.
And I'm not necessarily saying that this is the only way to go. I just thought it was a good way to save money by pulling all the pieces together that involve simple concrete flooring rather than.
And we really would have a better idea once we knew what each of those component pieces cost.
And we do have, the only two funds actually, the sales tax buckets that do have a current balance in them is the street department and parks, since we have not done anything. We paid that tennis ground a long time ago. We have built, I don't know what the amount is, I think you have that in here. It's like 180, so I mean, we have a significant amount in there.
But that kind of gets back to my original point. We didn't come up with a unique project for the park, so now it's just kind of, that's what's left hanging.
I agree with you 100%. I would really love to see a revamping of that north side park and maybe a splash pad or something.
Yeah.
I think that's a fantastic project, and I would like to see that done as well. And if the numbers come back for the parking lot over by the Memorial Garden, say, well, we would never have enough to do that, I might be inclined to agree with you on that one. But if it comes in significantly lower because we're tying it to everything else, where it wouldn't be that big of a amount, and we would still have plenty of money to go around.
Well, and even though it would be a smaller amount, it would be easier to absorb into a street fund rather than it would a parks fund, because streets is 50%.
I would have to check on that to see if that's a buyer for use street sales tax to do a park, mountain park. I'm not sure they would. We could try, I guess.
Well, and
We have a
obviously,
significantly more amount of money in the street one than we do.
and we talked about access to the pool from a sidewalk, through Ball Field 4 and Lodgepole Youth Valley Camp, and then, one over to Deaver. Possibly those could come out of swimming pool?
Well,
Or what are those going to come out of?
we were counting on all this coming out of the pool one.
Okay.
Connecting the pool to the trail, we figured that's part of the pool.
Part of the pool connecting to the pool.
We have the trails and the parking lot that connect to it. We assumed that would be full.
Okay.
We would have to make a research to make sure we're not getting out of line on that one.
Well, I know it's something that all of us have fielded questions on over the years.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, a lot of it, I so badly want to connect that
Yeah.
parking lot to
Amen.
the pool to the trail system very bad.
Yeah, I actually stepped that off yesterday. It's about 325 yards from the trail up to the pool.
Around behind here?
Yeah, I walked through there.
the Boulder Pool.
There's a lot of snow back there yet. It's deep. It's deep, but I went through there, so you'd be about 325, 350 yards.
So a couple questions that we will want to answer can we use street money from Memorial Gardens? And I guess I assume tying the pool to the trails would be usable for pool, but I probably should make sure.
And you're talking about from Lodgepole
Who do
Creek.
you ask that question of?
What's that?
Who do you ask that question of?
Who
Oh, we
makes
were
who's the
talking about
boss?
this-
Talk to Paul about
Yeah.
it too, but that aquatic center bond is done, we kept that percentage the way we did because there's still outstanding debt on the pool. But that aquatic center bond is done.
We only have like one more payment, that'd be a big debt payoff there too.
The other question, I guess, if we're talking about a sidewalk from Lodgepole Creek Apartments that goes by all of those lots, those private lots, is that something that we should be paying for, or is that something by ordinance that's required of anybody to have a sidewalk by their street?
Well, there's really the way we have this is we have it going from Captain Walter Reed, which is actually not, I don't know anybody that really owns that or is developing that land. Because you could go along the street where it would be in front of the Lodgepole Creek Apartments or in front of that Prairie Winds subdivision, but having lived in Lodgepole Creek Apartments, I know nobody goes down on the street.
No.
They all take that. So
I think what he's asking is-
But-
Walter Reed, you're tied.
But
What he's saying is
Don't buy
those
those houses.
4 lots that connect that go where your red line is there that go to the Lodgepole Creek Apartments? There's 4 or 5 lots there?
Oh, right here?
To the very top.
No.
To the very top.
Top.
Keep going
Oh,
up.
that section, yeah.
He's
that's
saying,
it.
should the owner of that land be the one putting that sidewalk in?
Well, honestly, I don't,
Because I think by ordinance, developers are required to provide the sidewalk. Because when we built the street out to the hospital, Lodgepole Creek Road, technically we were supposed to put sidewalks all along that, and I remember our former city manager saying, yeah, we are, but
Right.
you're just going to have tractors and farming equipment driving over and breaking it up until such time as those lots would get developed.
Right, until somebody buys these lots and develops them.
And that's the problem with developing streets, is if you don't do it right away, it doesn't happen. I mean, look on 10th Street and 11th Street, or I guess 11th Street. 11th Street, how many lots don't have sidewalk and lots that do have sidewalk? And unfortunately, I mean, if push came to shove, that would be the property owner's
Well, we
responsibility.
would be able to decide that, whoever develops that. I mean, we would be able to work with whatever developer, say, hey, when you do this, we want this in. You know, we need to be able to do that, just like we did at Maverick. We said, hey, if you're gonna build this, you need to tie this sidewalk into our future plan, and they did. And honestly, I have no heartache with leaving this section off for now until that gets developed, because until it gets developed, everybody's just going down the street anyway.
Right.
Like, they're not gonna,
Yeah.
who's gonna say, oh, I need to walk on the sidewalk. and there's
I think the
nobody
plan,
there.
I think the plan is much better to have it on the west side of those lots versus right next to Fort Sidney Road. We always knew that was going to be problematic to put a sidewalk close to a high-traffic area. So I think that's a much better plan for a sidewalk
Over here.
on that side versus the
Oh,
east
yeah,
side.
yeah. Oh, yeah, I do, I
Yeah.
agree too. And it's so slopey out here, like, you would have.
And there's a lot more drainage, there's a lot more drainage on that side.
Honestly, I think, I agree, I would have no heartache with it, because if there's no houses there, people are gonna walk down, they're not gonna go on the side, they're gonna just walk in the street anyway.
Yeah.
And when we develop that, whoever develops that, whenever that happens, you can include that in your package as a developer, say, hey, when you do these houses, we want this sidewalk.
Well, I think by ordinance, it's already required.
Well, then perfect, yeah.
I just want to point that out for future use, as we're developing streets and things, that there are things that are required of the developers that,
Yes.
because I've had people, I got this question probably 7, 8 years ago. Why don't we have a sidewalk from Lodgepole Creek Apartments to the pool? I said, well, that's private property. They would have to provide it. And then they're like, oh, then they weren't so eager to ask for it. Because then they were going to have to be the ones paying for it, yeah.
Yeah, to Roger's point, we're just trying to minimize the amount of this project by not putting streets in there. So on the map there, we would still need to do from the corner north to the First Street, right? Just that First Street.
Yeah,
that
Yeah,
little bit.
but then the rest of that we wouldn't need to do.
You just would not do this.
The blue's existing, right?
Yeah, the
Yes.
blue's already there, yeah.
I mean, they all have good merits.
No,
It's
this is
just,
great advice. I love it. I love that idea. Why would we pay for that, right?
And then,
What about from the pool to Deaver?
Well, that would just, I went out and looked at that, and I don't think it's
Not very much.
flat there. It doesn't look like it would be a great, big, long piece. It would just go around that, whatever you call it, I don't know that church.
Jehovah's Witnesses.
Jehovah's Witness Church, yeah.
In our right of way, out in front of Jehovah's, but I think that was really, glad you mentioned that, because that would be, oh well.
So,
worthwhile.
are you asking us to do anything about this tonight, or
I
what's
just
the-
wanted to see what you guys thought of this plan, to try to at least save some money. At the very least, if we bid portions of this, like that, parking lot that we may not even do, at least we would have a dollar number on it, and we would be able to know whether, and if we can, and I will research to see if we can use street money for that as well.
yeah, I think the idea is great to put them all together to lower the bid and then bond it so that we can start work on it right away to get all these things in there and then,
Pay for it with the sales
Yeah.
tax.
and then just figure out how to allocate it, but with the understanding we want to keep as much money in the park project as possible.
I agree, I would like to do something big. I agree with that.
Yeah, because I've made this point numerous times over the years. We have a great park at Legion Park now through outstanding efforts of the group and the ladies that put that together. Did a fantastic job with that. But the point I've always tried to make is, as a community, especially the size of ours, a first-class community, should have more than one nice park. One park, the Legion Park, is outstanding for young kids, small kids, toddlers. But maybe another park has something that appeals more to older kids. Maybe there's a rock climbing wall. Maybe there's other types of equipment, other types of features. So that when you're all said and done, you actually have a park system. You have a group of smaller parks or parks throughout the community that all complement each other and each provide something that the other park doesn't have. So in the end, you end up with something that offers a lot more diversity, a lot more amenities to the community, without, all being in the same spot. They don't have to all be in the same spot. Each one can be unique in its own way and offer something to different people at different levels.
And I know the north side park's been bad, maybe something.
Yeah, we have tremendous opportunities there. We just have great space there.
Yeah, it's a great space, you can do all kinds of stuff with that, perfect for a large project. But, thank you for your input, because, we don't think of everything, and so it's great to hear what you guys had to say, what Burke said about Deaver and the idea about taking that piece out, because nobody's gonna walk on anywhere, right? Just walk on the street. That's what everybody does right now, and I did that.
I think in the big picture, absolutely. I think it's a good idea and it's a good place for it.
But we can do that.
Is it critical right now?
Developers can do
Maybe
that.
not.
Developers can do that. It's a good idea. All good input.
I'm not opposed to at least going forward and seeing what we can find out about cost of each different components
Get bids.
and a cost of an overall
And what
project.
applies to what bucket?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, we will do that. We'll look into what all buckets can be used for what, and then maybe try to put together a big package on how soon we'll do this to figure out what the cost is gonna be. 'Cause I'm sure it's gonna be cheaper to do them all, like all your concrete.
Oh, I think that's very smart.
And I did
I think
not
it's very
want to try
smart.
to sell out the Water Park project. I was just only trying to focus on something
Sure.
that would save the
Yeah.
money in the bigger picture.
Yeah. Yeah, the big scheme, the big picture, I just would really, really like to see us be able to add something of value to the community that we don't currently have.
I honestly think connecting with the pool and the trail can make some people happy in town for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
Get the kids out for it.
And the nice thing about our trail system that sometimes goes unnoticed is you can literally walk from where it begins at the fairgrounds all the way to Legion Park, and kids never have to cross a street. You can go 5 miles on the trail and never have to cross a street. We get all the way up here to you can actually go from the fairgrounds all the way to Sapp Brothers without crossing a street.
No, there would be one, doesn't it? It crosses.
You gotta cross
it
By the
crosses-
college, maybe.
The college would be the only spot.
No, isn't there a bridge there?
Goes under.
Yeah, it goes under.
Oh, yeah, you go under too.
Yeah.
can't
Yep, you go underneath 10th, and you go underneath 10th, around Fort Sidney Draw Road, underneath that, and then you go underneath Fort Sidney Road.
Yep, you can go all the way up to Quebec.
So basically, the soccer fields is the only place you cross, and obviously that's not an arterial road. And we would be saying the same thing here with the swimming pool, not a high traffic area. But for kids to be able to go that amount of distance across a community without having to cross the street is phenomenal.
It is. And this wouldn't, when you are crossing the street, you're kind of just crossing that parking lot access, really, road, but it is.
Tuesdays and Thursday nights.
And we would want to include signage there too, especially in a place like this where it's gonna stop and then pick up. You would want some sign saying trail again and, 20 feet
Yeah.
or something like that. So
Right now-
It doesn't just end here, it picks back up.
Right now, what percentage of the swimming pool parking lot is paved? About a third? Less?
Almost half.
Half?
Where's that picture? We have it
Okay.
It's already up there.
Oh, this is the pool one, yeah, this is the pool one.
And that was paid, that wasn't out of half-cent sales tax money. That was out of your own budget, wasn't it?
I think it was too, yeah.
Because it was such a dire need with the rocks.
Yeah. So anyway, if you guys want us to move forward, we'll kind of put together some.
And there are still opportunities, I think, out there with the trail. Jason going out and securing the planning grant puts us in tremendous position moving forward for the next round of grants.
And one of only 8 cities in Nebraska that was awarded money through that program.
Is that right?
Yep. 8, I think in Omaha, us, and I can't remember yet.
So I think there's a lot of opportunities for
Oh, yes.
trail improvements,
Big
not
picture.
just through these funds or these buckets. Good ideas, though.
Well, we'll try to put something together to at least get some bidding out there, to get some cost estimates on what all these areas, and then we'll do some research on what we can use the money for, but I mean, clearly the parking lot pool, cool, and the golf and picking the golf, but, and also I'd like to. So, all right, cool. And thanks for the arts and crafts, that was fantastic.
Very nice.
Yeah.
This is what they do when I'm out of town.
No food stains on it?
There's some ketchup stains.
No, yeah?
It's in the middle.
Oh,
Uh,
I thought that was a focus point.
All right, well, Paul, tell us all about the claims that you set the City of Sydney record for doing.
Previous
claimed.
record.
Or executed. I didn't see anything that seemed Lori helped immensely.
She is pretty handy, isn't she?
Yeah.
Helped or just guided past?
Sort of walked me through everything.
Mm.
Yes. Explained how everything worked. It was good. It was fantastic, actually.
Just can't take it. All right, do we have a motion to pass the claims for January?
So moved.
Second.
Radcliffe, Galloway, roll call.
Sherman?
Yes.
Radcliffe?
Yes.
Cloudesdale?
Yes.
Stroman?
Yes.
Galloway?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0. Approve the claims. And now, Mr. Lane Kazire, tell us how well our budget's doing.
This is what Tom waited for all night. Good evening, council, Lynn Desire, finance director. Just gonna go over the January budget reports. Property tax varies from year to year. We're pretty much right in line with previous years. Sales and occupation tax, a little bit above. We're at 36%. I believe January's 33% of the year. So typically we see a larger sales tax receipt in the month of February, then they kind of fall off for a few months till summer ramps up. But barring any large refunds, we're right on schedule. Fees for service slightly above previous fiscal years, largely because of building permits. State, federal, and county, a little behind where we were a year ago. Consistent with previous years, we did receive that Safe Streets for All grant for the planning stage, which will increase some revenues for that category. Franchise and admin fees are reported in the first quarter. Audit's just complete, so I get to go do franchise fees from the departments now, so that'll look a little bit better next month. And then in the other, this is something I wanted to touch base on. It's not something I see in the budget reports, but the largest portion of that other category is the USD building rent, and with them vacating that building, I wouldn't anticipate us hitting our revenues for that. Obviously, they're not going to pay rent for that building they're not in anymore, so I wouldn't anticipate any exceeding budget revenues in that category. The other thing that I wanted to talk about that's not, but you don't see in this, is the Nebraska Department of Transportation requested that we look at the rent for the building that the Transportation Department is in, which is owned by the Economic Development Fund, LD 40 Fund. And so when we did that, they estimated the rent should have been about $3,000. We've been charging about $1,000 a month of rent, which is basically coming from the Transportation Department to the LD 40 Fund. And so beginning in March, we're going to ramp that up to $3,000, which the state reimbursed that at 90%. So that's just extra money that's going into our LD 40 Fund in order to.
But the fund owns that building. I didn't know that.
Transportation pays rent, they don't pay, it's been the same forever.
It's been the same forever, as long as I've been in there. Actually, what started it was they were auditing, they've been, the Transportation Department, as you've probably heard, has been hit pretty hard by fraud. As an example of that, something I off with like $1 million and then just disappeared. And so they were auditing everything and they've been going through. In fact, we haven't got a reimbursement for the Transportation Department since I don't even, probably won this fiscal year so far, just because they're auditing every little thing. And they said that, well, you need to have a rent agreement. So I said, okay, so then we did that. And they said, well, you need to look at your rent now. So then we did that now. So, you know, it's on them, I guess, but that was
The
what
state
they.
is gonna reverse that at like 80 or 90%.
It's 90% that they reimburse, and then and it's depending on, it's like, you know, 75% federal, 25%.
Yeah, you'd be crazy not to.
Yeah.
So, and we're going to do that, actually, the way that the state wants us to do that is we need to look at it every 2 years. And so, written in the agreement is every 2 years, beginning in January, we're going to look at the rent again. If they've gone up, we'll adjust accordingly. If they come down, we'll adjust accordingly. So, Not something that you see in here, that was just something budget-wise I wanted to know. Doesn't cost us hard to read. Any questions?
No questions? Burke doesn't have any questions. We need a motion to approve it then.
So moved.
Second.
Radcliffe Galloway again. Roll call?
For the win.
Radcliffe,
Yes.
Bonjour,
Yes.
Stroman,
Yes.
Galloway,
Yes.
Sherman.
Yes. All right. Now, since the meeting is just half over, we're gonna go to a public hearing for Resolution 202-30205, approving the purchase of building at 1040 Jackson Street as applicable, starting at 8:46.
So it's a little different in, because we are going to be talking about the appraisal, the purchase agreement, the lease agreement that has been looked at. But the actual resolution that is in front of you is something that talks about, because it's going to be negotiations and of a contractual nature. We'll be talking about that in executive session, and in order to allow your staff to be able to negotiate in between that time, your resolution actually gets passed after the closed session, if it's going to pass.
So you'd like to move it?
Correct, just the one needs to be moved down
Wants to move.
after the closed session. But
Okay.
you're still having the same public hearing.
So we're
as far as
having the public
building.
hearing.
Yes.
That started a minute ago. But we're just not gonna be able to pass the resolution until we come back out of it.
Correct,
Or,
if you
I
pass
mean-
it at all.
We're gonna have the public hearing, close the public hearing, go into closed session, come back. All right, duly noted.
So is there anything else to discuss then during the public hearing?
Right, I mean, those can all be discussed. The appraisal is public.
Okay.
The purchase agreement that we have is public. It's just that the amount, as far as the actual amount that would be paid, has not been determined by either entity.
Right.
But the other terms are there and have been tentatively approved by the two attorneys.
As you know, we mentioned in the last meeting that we needed to have an appraisal done on this building. I haven't heard to get that in time by tonight, but we did get it, and the appraisal came in at $174,000. Now, the original agreement, just I don't know if we mentioned this before, the purchase agreement, we had put the amount of $99,000 in that agreement. And the reason we put that amount in there is because the statutes do not allow us to purchase property that has not been appraised for anything over $100,000. So the original sale agreement just had $99,000 because theoretically, until the appraisal was done, we couldn't put anything else, any other number in an agreement. Now, since then, we do have the appraisal, and we do know that it's going to be, it came in at 174. Does that mean that we change that amount? I don't know, maybe not. Maybe we leave it at 99. We know that the Elks have done their research with their Grand Lodge and are not allowed to put any of their money that they receive into this project like we originally discussed might happen. So they will not be able to do that. It will have to, and I'm sure they can speak to that one. I'll let them talk in a minute. I'd be better explaining that than I will. But I know that it needs to go to a separate fund to be held by their advisor, I believe. So I guess maybe that's just something that we'll talk about in closed session or an open session or whatever we want to do. And if they want to speak to it, that's fine. I know they're all here now. The purchase agreement, other than the amount, I feel like has been pretty much settled. And I don't know if you guys feel that way. I feel like we talked about that and everybody's agreeing on the actual purchase agreement other than the price, right? And for the most part, that's pretty much.
That's certainly what your attorneys conveyed to me.
Right, that was all in agreement. And now the lease agreement, they will not be discussing until the 20th, Monday.
Monday, we vote on the purchase agreement, and we have started going through the lease agreement.
Okay.
and, it's a work in progress.
Are you hoping for a vote Monday night on it?
Not on the lease, no.
Okay.
That, no, because we don't have enough time. We've got to go 10
Okay.
days on that.
But your attorney has at least reviewed it and given his approval on it, because he and I have spoken about it.
You gave approval on that?
Yes, on the terms, I mean, as far as that it was set up and that it appeared to be correct.
Obviously, we'll negotiate whatever lease terms are agreeable to both parties.
Absolutely.
But as far as it being a legal functioning document is what you're saying.
Well, and as far as, yes, as far as it seeming to be
In order?
the correct type of agreement and having the correct provisions, yes.
But I think obviously your group's going to go through and look at lease terms. We're going to talk about lease terms. We'll get together on lease terms, and I think that's all that's being said at this point.
The important thing to note is though, even if we agree on a purchase agreement, without the lease agreement, I don't know that we would want to sign an agreement to pay, or
By the Millman.
to commit any funds to the construction project. Why would we do that? Unless we know that there's going to be a sale agreement and a lease agreement in place.
So how long,
Well, I'll tell you this.
Projecting.
I got our new estimate today.
From the
We did have
contract.
to redo it because the other one was 3 months old, and Steele just called me today, and I sent this to Aaron at Elks as well. The new amount is $96,000 more, so now we're at $2.2 million. And I don't know how long that will be good for, probably another 3 days, and then we'll have to redo that again. So it is going up and up, went up 4.2%, which honestly I thought probably more than that. The way things are going up, I thought 3 months would be more than 4%.
So we need or would prefer, we need a lease agreement before we proceed?
I would think, would you, or maybe not, but can we sign an agreement with Steele off just having a sale?
So long
agreement?
as you've got a signed purchase agreement,
Then we could sign that agreement with Steele.
you could.
Because we know the building will be ours whether we
Whether-
decide to lease it
That's
or
right.
not.
That's correct.
Okay.
And then the lease agreement would simply be a matter of working with the
Right,
Elks to
working with
get
them.
something that makes them feel comfortable.
Okay.
But you've got to, I mean, that's why
Right.
we did the whole
need
thing
the
in
sale
two
agreement for
separate
sure.
ones, because
Yes.
you needed that sales agreement in order to be able to move forward.
Right, we can't sign anything
Correct.
with the construction company if we don't own it, right?
Correct.
Or aren't owned it, so. And I guess you bet, you guys want to speak about it? I'm kind of holding up and speaking for you, and I shouldn't be. Feel free to come up and let us know how you see the progress going.
Slowly.
Not yet.
It's,
You go ahead and promote
Before
yourself.
Rob.
We'll
I don't have anything to say.
We'll need
Biggest
to-
thing is,
We'll need to be able to hear it though.
Yeah, if
So-
you wouldn't mind coming up
I know,
and
sorry.
telling us who you are and why you're here.
Mayor, Councilman, my name is Anita Pennell. I am a trustee for the Sydney Elks Lodge. I'm also a past Exalted Ruler, and I have been a member for over 14 years. I've dealt with the Grand Lodge, trying to put this purchase agreement together and the lease agreement. There is a question, and we knew that there would be, on the price. Grand Lodge is not going to sign off on anything at $99,000 because they know that the building is worth more than that. And basically, the way it works is that Grand Lodge oversees everything that we do. All of our financials go through Grand Lodge. Our charter is attached to our building. So if something were to happen to our building and Grand Lodge didn't sign off on it, we could lose our charter. That is pure and simple. So therefore, that's why it is so important for us to get Grand Lodge to sign off and give us the permission to go through with this contract, okay? Maybe that explains a little bit as to why we have to do things the way we have to do them and why it's not gone as quickly as we all had hoped in the beginning. With that being said, we are very much wanting to do the best that we can do for our lodge and for our community. We know our building, and I'm calling it our building. It's been our building for years and years. It will always be our building as far as I'm concerned. But we know that the city or the community needs a place. We need a place. A place that we can have events, a place that we can be proud of, a place that people want to come to, a destination, you might say, okay? So we're not dragging our feet because we want to. We are dragging our feet so that we are taken care of as well. We understand that you don't want to have anything to do with the management of the building. But in reading the purchase agreement, I think we pretty much have come to terms that that's okay, except the financial part, okay? The lease, I can tell you right now, that there's some questionable stuff in there, that we are discussing and trying to come to terms with, and we will be negotiating, okay? There's a lot of items in the lease that if we take that to our membership at this point for them to vote on it, because we cannot do anything without a membership vote, and memberships to be notified 10 days ahead of time in writing. So that is another thing that has cost us some time. With that, I know myself, I do not feel comfortable signing a lease or a purchase agreement at this time if we can't come up with a lease. I don't want to sign off and have you buy or have anybody purchase the building, and then we, for some reason, cannot come to terms and agreement with the lease. And then we are out. We have nothing. And I hope y'all can understand that portion of it. I know that you don't want anything to do with it, and I get that. But when I read through the lease, that's not what it reads. So I guess my thing is, and I know we need to really buckle down. The purchase agreement goes in front of the membership on the 21st, is that correct? Yeah, Monday. And so they're going to want to know before they sign anything what that lease says. Before they vote on anything, they're going to want to know what that lease says.
Have you spoken with your attorney? Because he's spent a substantial amount of time going through it.
We have. We've talked to him, and we are negotiating with him again in the next couple of days. So he will be getting a hold of you, I'm sure. Okay. Up until today, till we got here, we didn't even realize there was an appraisal done. Okay, we didn't know what that amount was.
I shared it right away. It's all through it.
And I made sure that your attorney knew the same day we received it.
Okay.
Both
We
those
did not
things.
know. We did not know.
Well, I just want to make it perfectly clear that I think the most important thing you hit on is this is for Sydney. We can certainly appreciate the fact that, to my count, there's about 7 vested interests. You have yourselves, your members, and your lodge to all agree with what you want. We have the city, our lawyers, and the council that, want to make sure that all of our interests are covered. And then, of course, we have the contractors that we're trying to hold on to. And again, like I said, this is, I want to make it perfectly clear that everyone is doing everything that they can. Whether we miss a step here or there, the most important thing is, just we'll stay focused. We'll work through it. Like Roger and Jay said, there's going to be issues. But I said this in our first meeting is, we all want this to work.
Yes.
And we all want everybody to be protected. Nobody is Nobody is trying to do anything underhanded. The goal is to remodel this and make it something that's going to be admired and sought after for events, for even different states around here are going to come want to be part of this. So I don't think any of us should lose sight of what we're trying to do. We all know how hard it is, and I just want to make sure nobody's blaming anybody. We just understand what we're dealing with, and that we're all gonna work through this and make it happen. And like I said, I appreciate your guys' concerns. I appreciate you coming to these meetings and sharing your concerns. And you know, we all have people we need to answer to, and we want to make sure that we're all doing our best stewards for the people we represent. So, like I said, I appreciate your guys' time, and there's gonna be more time and more things, but you know, I mean, we're close.
We're close.
We're a lot closer than we've been, and we're continuing to move forward, and we'll all offer all of our support and everything we can to make sure that, like I said, all 7 parties are covered and taken care of, and that it works out for all of us. So.
We thank you. And we appreciate everything too. I mean, it's just a process that we have to go through, and I'll be honest, it's been real difficult.
Yeah. Well, and you've said it before, we've said it before, we all have the same goal. We want to provide this shining jewel for our community.
Absolutely.
And I mean, what a tremendous asset it would be. It'll be an asset to the public that the entire public can take advantage of. It'll be an advantage to the Elks organization. So ultimately, we all want the same thing, and whether it's the price on a purchase agreement or terms of the lease, those are things we talk about. And ultimately, we just want to come up with something that's, you know, fair and equitable and agreeable to everybody. And so we really, really, you know, in the deepest sense, want this to work for everyone.
Well, I know we're working on it too, and we will be talking to our membership, and we will be talking to our attorney to see what we can get put together. So hopefully we'll have something no later than the end of the weekend, just so that we all are on the same page. We would really like to have something by our meeting so that we can take it to them and we can get it taken care of at that point in time. So I'm sure there's going to be a lot of back and forth at this point.
Yep. All we got to do is talk.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, so does that conclude the public meeting, or is there any other questions for anybody in here?
If there's any other
Comments?
people that want to speak to it, but
Anybody else want to speak on the issue?
Brett's cooking bacon's gonna be bland.
That's worth the price of admission right there.
Yes, it
Even
is.
if you don't get a plate of food, $10 is a fair price.
It's $12.
12.
Because Brad's services are being so high.
I didn't want to mention that, but yeah, it's $12. All right, so with that, we'll end the public meeting at 9:04. And then we will skip to David's city manager's report, which is going to include a detailed explanation of where you've been for a week.
Yeah.
I like how you phrased that.
Yeah, and I like how you guys went totally a different way. I'm talking about this missile and airplanes and stuff. I don't know what you guys are thinking about. But go ahead, David. I'm sorry. Sorry for the interruption.
First of all, I just wanted to let the council know that I did hear back from Jamie Weingart, and she apologized that she doesn't have our packets put together yet from our strategic plan. She says she should have something by the end of the week.
Unacceptable.
And then I want to thank the council members that attended the chamber banquet. I thought it went very well. I had a good attendance. And we got to see Lane and Sarah go at it, so that was fun. That was some entertainment for mine. I still put my money on Sarah. And then, as Roger alluded to earlier, I wanted to, and they're not here tonight, but I wanted to say thank you to Jason Melky and their staff for all the work they do to try to put together the Safe Streets for All planning grant. I think that's fantastic. We got $300,000 $60,000 match, and as I said, we were one of only 8 cities in the state to get money from that, so kudos to that. That's going to be a great process. I look forward to working with everybody on that committee. I know there's a council member, I can't remember who all was on. I think it was you, Roger.
Mhm.
You weren't, okay. Yeah, we'll be working on that soon. We'll get our plan. And the table of grace, I know somebody had asked about that a while back, and that will close tomorrow.
That's the plan.
We're still waiting to hear back from
Table of
from
Grace
Sandy,
people,
but,
yeah.
They were hoping that would close tomorrow. We've already signed the documents already to go. We just need to get it to the title company and be done with it.
Yeah, the title company's still trying to reach out to Table of Grace to get a time for tomorrow, but we're ready.
And one other thing I need to bring up that I had to kind of write in here, we are applying through the Rural Workforce Housing Trust Fund for money for that revolving loan fund that we've been talking about for a long time. Those applications are out, and we are filling them out, and I've been sending out requests for support letters and all kinds of stuff for that, and trying to put together, they want our committee to be put together that will be reviewing any kind of application for these funds, whether that be a purchasing home or a developer or whatever the case may be. But to even apply the application, they want us to have a committee and their resumes. And we have decided, and they have certain aspects of what they want on the committee. They want at least a 5-person, so that's what we're going to try to put together. They want somebody in housing, somebody in banking, somebody in real estate, somebody in development, and then they also want maybe a council member on that. So I was wondering who would like to submit their resume and be on our Rural Workforce Housing Fund.
I would love to.
Well, that's outstanding.
I just figured instead of us just trying to find somebody else to do it and then me taking it anyway, I just act like I wanted to.
What is it,
Skip the
Dave?
middleman.
Could you go through it again?
Well, I don't know, we don't, until we get money, we don't know when we will be meeting or anything like that. We just are trying to put together that committee so that we have it in order to submit with our application for the fund. And by the way, the Nebraska Community Foundation did commit their portion. We got their commitment letter yesterday saying.
Just working as a committee to put together a workforce grant.
Well, we'll have the,
I'd do it.
we'll do the grant. Pat is working with us to submit
I
the grant
stand-
application, but
I
we'll
stand down to Councilman Stroman's offer.
decide. Do you want to do that?
Yeah, I'll do it.
So are you going
That's what I
to?
did. Did you see how that worked? Did you see I helped?
Yeah.
Wingman.
Do I need a bio or just a resume?
I just need to submit this one. We need to submit the resumes of the proposed board members with our applications. And we're working with Panhandle. Pat is working with
Yeah.
us on this as well.
They'll do a lot of the grant writing
So
process.
that would be,
My resume is 33 years old.
I'll write it down.
Yeah, I haven't.
Went
I
to
think
high
it'd be
school.
exciting. It's going to be a lot of fun. I think the money will be, it's fun, you know.
Yeah.
Do housing projects. So
Yeah.
I think you'll like
Yeah.
it. And then I will be out of town this Thursday and Friday. I'm speaking at the Municipal League Arts portion of the conference. And then, as I alluded to earlier, I'll be out of town Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday next week in Lincoln speaking to LD 712. And I have been gone the last 3 days. I was gone Wednesday and Thursday and Friday of last week. We flew from, it was part of the Civic Leaders Tour the military put on. It was a fantastic event, one of the greatest things I think I'll ever do in my life. We went to, started out at F.E. Warren, flew north to Ellsworth Air Force Base in South Dakota. Toured everything there. Some of the technology that's coming up is just, it's going to change the world. It really is. Some of the stuff they show you is just incredible what they're doing with fabricated parts and things like that to keep planes in the air. We don't have to wait 6 weeks to order them. It's just amazing. And the bombers were incredible as well. Everybody was very professional and really very structured though. Military is, you 0500, you're in the lobby ready to go, and you better be ready to go. You know, and you eat and you know, where they tell you to go. No, but it was really fun. And then we went from there to Vandenberg Space Force Base in California, which was a lot nicer weather than the first 2 places we were at, where it was snowing and freezing cold. And toured a lot of the base there. That base, just a fun fact, is is absolutely enormous. It covers 46 miles of shorefront. That's how big Vandenberg is. It's just an enormous base. And we got to go out to the launch site to see what it was going to produce at the launch. We got to sit in through all the briefings and all the mission control meetings. So the launch knew exactly what was going to happen and how it was going to happen. It was very informative. Know way more about ICBM now than I ever thought I would ever know in my life. So very top notch. Also spent a lot of time talking and bending, Senator Hardin's ear about LB 712 while we were there, and some other things. So very, very good trip. I recommend it. The plane was not that fancy. I don't recommend the C-130. The cargo net seats with one toilet in the middle for a British Air is not. The rest was great. Literally, that's what it was. So that's all I have to comment.
Well, that is awesome. Well, we'll go around the room and talk to everybody before we go into closed session. So, okay. Autumn.
Just a fun fact that the employees committee had a chili cook-off this last week. And the general admin won.
Who got to be judges of this?
So the employees.
That's wrong.
I know. But you can't take off for school. You have to work.
Bring it to me. It's fine.
I thought there was going to be a brawl this morning.
Yes, it was going to be a brawl this morning. We have a trophy coming and everything.
Mine truly was the best.
No, nobody died.
So it's fun.
There was 10 different,
10 different chilies.
We
We
had
had
40
45
employees
people.
there. It was huge.
Okay.
That's awesome. Fun.
Yeah.
We're standing outside the door handing out $5 bills going.
Oh, Lord.
I'm really upset I didn't get to see this now. Yeah.
So your chili won.
Yeah.
Just so you know, I tasted that.
People ate it.
I told you it should win.
This was
They
so
really-
big, the departments had to have their own chili cook-offs to see who would represent their department. That's how
It was a tournament.
it was.
It was serious.
It's brackets, you got to get to the
You know,
Why, we should have been allowed an entry then.
We are protesting,
Should allow the
but
council to
yeah. Next
Yeah.
year this is going to be even bigger. It's going to be like the State of Nebraska Chili Cook-Off in Sydney, Nebraska.
Right.
One of the biggest events ever held
At the Elks.
at the Elks. At the nicest building in Nebraska.
At the nicest building in the state.
There you go.
That's awesome. Anything else? Marshall.
It's all good right now.
All right. Lane, technically you're geographically next.
You're out of time.
I would take Sarah out again if I had to.
That's the kind of support we're looking for our city staff. So we appreciate that.
And that's,
Mike.
I didn't have anything, but I just want to go on record to say that general admin won, but they also counted the votes.
I see a definite need for city council involvement next year.
Yeah, there has to be an
The
over.
only way we're going to keep this thing
In charge
straight.
of doing the voting, or
Our
counting the
counting
votes.
system is more complicated
Yeah.
than Arizona's election.
You guys have,
Well, we got it.
one, and then I'll do the vote count.
There has to be some oversight. Yeah.
Sore losers.
And we
How many hanging chads were there?
we appreciate your willingness to speak out. That's what we need. Tom.
Supposed to bring us together. I think it'd be nice.
It sounds like now Autumn is going to have some HR work to do to bring this place back together, see if we can salvage some careers.
Careers. I like it.
What about the parks? They still cold?
Still cold, still lots of snow.
Pool's not open yet?
We're starting to meet at tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah,
Start putting water in.
people hired, people training.
Good deal. You can never have that pool staffed enough.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Brandon, what would you like to tell us?
Nothing.
I have a question for Mike, and it's not about light poles. Can you give us a 30-second update on the generation project? Like, have we purchased generators in our possession?
They're purchased, we are tentatively scheduled to have a delivery sometime in February of one of the units. We have a meeting on Tuesday morning with engineering, Howard Tech, which is
Health and
supplies, and as well, we'll probably do the construction of the thing. So have more to come after
Okay.
Tuesday, but yeah, we're on track. Probably we're hoping to have them end of the year operational if everything goes as planned.
Excellent. Paul, what would you like to tell everybody?
I don't really have much to say. I thought that, we went down to Lincoln and pleaded our case, and I think we did the best we could down there. Now it's up to Erdman and his cohorts to try and see if they could get some of that bill passed, but I'm not sure how positive he was on that.
Did it feel like it went like last time or better? Or?
I thought
Watching it, I thought it was similar to last year.
it felt a little less, because I remember walking out of there last year thinking, we went down there thinking, we probably don't have a chance, but every single senator had something positive to say to us last year. This year it didn't feel quite that way. I mean, it was still well received and they were polite and everything, but I think the overall sense was, hey, thanks for coming. We appreciate you driving all the way in.
There's,
Really impressive.
See you next year.
We have another person we want to hire.
But a point that you made earlier, I think you said how many letters were in support?
62 to 5.
So 60, basically you can testify in support of a measure, against a measure, or neutral. So there were 62 letters in favor, 5 against and 1 neutral. And the gentleman who spoke in the neutral representing some organization actually threw out a suggestion that I think caught Senator Herdman's attention about splitting up the game and parks into a wildlife and game division and a parks and rec division.
fish and,
Fish and wildlife.
yeah.
Yeah, so I would not be surprised to see this get reincarnated into a new version if this measure does not succeed or move forward. So that was my take watching the hearing.
He said he's going to continue to fight for it, so,
Yes, he will.
And he said next year, if we have to go back next year.
that means we'll be going back next year.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Just book your room.
All right, Roger, it's your turn.
Okay.
A lot of
A lot of
pencils there.
notes,
Let's
a lot
do
of
it.
notes. Thank you for the chamber, for the chamber banquet. A lot of deserving honorees, and it was a very, very well attended, very well put together event. I think people enjoyed it very much. It was a great representation of all the businesses in our community that are part of that. Also got to attend the Jimmy L's Barbecue After Hours, sponsored by the Chamber, was another event, very well attended. If anybody hasn't had a chance to check out what they're offering now, in addition to their food truck and catering services, they have the location there on 10th Street by the tracks. I believe they're open Wednesdays at noon and Friday evenings. And it was just tremendous. Great turnout for that event, and they did an outstanding job with that. Also attended the aloe ribbon cutting. Very nice event, and they were signing up people throughout the entire night as they were going. Parts of the community are live now. Other parts of the community will be live at the end of March, and then they'll just keep progressing after that. But they're making tremendous progress with that. So another event, very, very well attended by people in the community. Enjoyed that very much. We've talked about the Safe Streets Planning Grant. I'd like to thank everybody that's on that committee. Council, a couple years back, hired Jason Nelke to help guide us through that process. It's a federal grant, and which can be very cumbersome. But Jason was of the opinion, and the committee agreed and wanted to pursue the planning grant as an initial step, because if you are a community that has that initial planning grant, you're able to show how much work and and that you've put into the planning of a project, that your odds of getting the bigger piece of the pie should be exponential. So I think the odds of success for pursuing a very sizable grant through the federal program, I think we have very, very good chances, very favorable. So, yeah, I know Marvin Ellwanger participated on that. I did. Chambers participated on that. The Visitors Center participated on that. Nebraska Department of Transportation, Streets, Parks Department, Law Enforcement, NRD. So a lot of people coming together on that committee, and we're only at the very beginning. You know, $300,000 is a great planning grant, but that's the tip of the iceberg as far as what's potential and the impact that it could have as we look to grow our trail system, improve it, make it accessible to more parts of the community, and just offer some tremendous opportunities, I think. So look forward to that. Also attended the meeting for the Sidney Endowment Fund that's being created. This is something that has been kick-started a little bit by the Nebraska Community Foundation, and providing a means of generating revenue and things for projects that give back to the community. You know, oftentimes there's things that the city can't do because your hands are tied legally as to who you can give money to, who you can't. And we also know that through the Nebraska Community Foundation, we have the Sidney Donor Fund, which has done tremendous work in the community. You know, as David had pointed out, you know, they helped finish paying off our fire truck, which in the end saved us a lot of money, and it got us the fire truck a year sooner, which also saved more money. But there again, their role and their mission is very specific. There's things that they can, and there's things that they cannot do with their monies. The Sidney Endowment Fund actually has a lot more freedom to operate as far as projects and people that they can work with. So they don't face a lot of the same restrictions. And so this group is just getting started. It's coming together. A number of people here attended that meeting. And the group is starting now to just form and get organized. But they have tried to come up with a name. So they're talking about being called the Sidney Area Greater...
Sidney Greater Area.
Sidney and Greater Area, Saga. Sidney and Greater Area Fund. And basically, the idea is an endowment fund that can help with projects in your community. We use the name Sidney because we actually can attract attention from other parts of the state or areas. But we also wanted to emphasize that it's not just Sidney, it's the greater area. We talk about Sidney being a southern regional hub for the Panhandle. And so I look forward to that group getting organized, and as they start moving forward to some of the projects that they can do. And to help kickstart that fund, they have received or will receive a $100,000 donation from the Sidney Anonymous Donor Fund. So where a lot of these endowment funds have gotten started across the state, you know, you're starting at ground zero and trying to get organized and put things together. With the Sidney Donor Advised Fund stepping forward, have put us at a huge head start. So look forward to seeing what that group will do. Would also like to congratulate some of our local high school youth who qualified for the state wrestling tournament this past week. With the girls, we have two qualifiers, Jaden Cottom and Safira Whitley. And from the boys team, we have Landon Haynes and Zach Rogash. So congratulations and kudos to those guys on your efforts throughout the season, and qualifying for the state tournament is indeed an honor, so good luck to them, and we wish them the best of luck. I will be attending that as well to watch my niece kick some butt in the 140-pound class.
When was the last time she got beat?
She is undefeated in the state of Nebraska. Yeah, she has placed at national tournaments in Fargo, North Dakota, Orlando, and she got bronze in France last summer. So look forward to that. It's going to be a good time to support not only the Sidney Red Raiders, but a little family interaction as well. So looking forward to that. That's all I got.
Thanks. All right. Well, I have. You didn't hear that.
No, I didn't.
Good. I
What else
have
did
to
I go
talk
to?
longer than Roger. So, number one,
I had the overs.
The chamber banquet. I think one thing that I thought was very impressive, and I know Marva and Tasha worked on it, but the escape room theme. For those of you that were there, it was awesome. Everybody was running around, and that's what caused Blaine to throw elbows and turn into somebody I've never seen before. It was impressive. But no, it was great. It was greatly attended, and it was appreciated by everyone. The theme to give us some entertainment. Throughout the night here, we've heard several things that Sidney, as a city, a community, has to offer that's better than everywhere. I'm going to have Jay look into this. Legally, can I say Sydney's the greatest city in the world? Is that?
It's an opinion, you absolutely can.
So I'm going to start the meetings with that from now on. And then to our testifying in front of the Natural Resources Committee, we went there and politely asked them if we could have the Nebraska Game and Parks, and they're going to get back to us. But again, it was a good experience. Being my second time, one of the things Erdman had mentioned was the Nebraska Game and Parks. Don't underestimate this. Does not want to move to Sidney, Nebraska. One thing that Paul and I both mentioned, and for some people that don't know this, Paul grew up in Manhattan and lives in Sidney now and loves it. I grew up in a smaller
Manhattan,
town,
Kansas.
was in Lincoln for 10 years, and moved here and loved it. And that was what both of us started our presentations with, because that was what they said the last time. Well, people aren't going to want to move to Sidney. Well, and David's from Lincoln. It's more than survivable. It's a fantastic place to live, and that's the one thing that if and when we go back next year, because I wrote down a lot of the points that they had pointed out that they can't. I'm even working on a free moving company to move them here for free, because that was one of the things that they had talked about.
UPS?
No. Too many little trucks. I've got somebody that owns bigger trucks. It's going to be great. But anyway, next year about this time, put it on your calendar. We're going to take buses down, and we're all going to go. And like we talked about, 62 to 5, 62 people. I'm assuming from around the Sidney community or with ties to the Sidney community, submitted letters. I think that's fantastic. I think next year that can be 625. Again, great experience. The lighting committee is getting ready to work on its annual banquet. The annual banquet's going to be like in April or something, but there's a meeting not this Wednesday, but next Wednesday at the Elks. And doesn't the Elks have burgers every Wednesday?
Every Wednesday.
That's fantastic. And then bingo is the first 3 Thursdays of the month. So tonight and tomorrow night, you can be there and then do the same thing next week. Attend the lighting committee meeting and have your input on how we're going to do our annual banquet. That would be fantastic.
Nice.
Second to last, I spoke with Carla Brower at West Elementary. The Hope Squad, you can go online and look at it. It's a national thing. It's fantastic. It's about positive attitudes, about kids, taking care of kids. She wanted me to do a proclamation. Unfortunately, we didn't get in touch in time to do it for tonight, but I told her that the 16th is the Hope Squad's annual day. They're going to be doing stuff at West Elementary. But just keep that in mind. Look for it. They want to go all the way up through junior high and high school with this program. So if you hear more about it, be excited about it. It's a good thing. And then with this being Valentine's Day 25 years ago, I coerced a young lady into lowering her standards and marrying me. I think with that being said, we need to end this meeting and,
No.
oh,
Closed
we
session.
can't end the meeting. See, I got carried away.
Got emotional.
I guess I'll just wait longer. We will,
You need a
I need a
motion.
motion.
Can I actually say something real quick? All right, sorry. So on your comment on the with the Erdman, so, and I just want to mention this because I thought that it was one of the most condescending things I've ever heard, was that the director of the Parks Department made the comment that he did not think, one of the reasons that he didn't want to move here, was that he did not think that there was qualified personnel, that they could find qualified individuals in the town of Sydney. So as much as we'd like to have the Parks Department here, I don't think that we want the director of the Parks Department here.
Well, and
I just want to make that public, so if he's listening.
so if he's listening tonight on the internet, I also appreciated Senator Erdman's response to some of that. He said, there's a lot of fine people in Sydney that reinvented themselves and reinvented their careers just so they could stay in Sydney.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a great response from him as well, and certainly appreciated all his support.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
No,
That's all I had. I was
don't-
just that,
I
as you
don't
were
think-
talking about that, it clicked in my head again, and I was like, God,
I
that's
don't
son
think
of a-"
we can stress it enough. Sydney is fantastic. If
Yeah.
they don't understand it, that's their problem. But when they have to move here next year, they'll totally
We got
get it.
plenty of qualified.
At this time, I would move that we go into closed session for the purposes of real estate negotiations.
I'll second.
Motion by
And
Galloway,
Personnel, Personnel, it's on there, okay.
motion for closed session by Galloway, second by Vondergaard.
It is on there.
Vondergaard,
Yes.
Stroman,
Yes.
Galloway.
Yes.
Sherman,
Yes.